It's happening again. Everyone's dying around me.
We're the only hope for saving our entire race. There is no hope, Isaac. It is do or die. We're stuck without your help. Are you with me? Are you with me?
Ladies and gents, welcome back to AusGamers. You are here once again with Stephen Farrelly. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite games, favorite series of all time, Dead Space 3. I've got Yara, who's an associate producer on the game. Yara, I do have a bone to pick before we get into it.
Sure.
And that is that I see my PR handler looking at me quite funny at the moment. I loved everything that I played yesterday. It was classic Dead Space, classic, scary corridors, some of the best audio in the business. But the flight sequence through space is pretty much the same thing that we did in Dead Space 2 already. Is there any particular reason you guys kind of, just redid that again? I mean, obviously I understand it's a bridging moment in the game, but it just felt too similar to the thing that we did last time.
So you're talking about the halo jump, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you noticed that you could actually shoot this time around?
Yeah, but my problem with that was I was just auto-aiming at stuff. It felt like a really old-school video game.
Oh, old school? Is old school not good?
It is good, but it didn't feel like it fit in the Dead Space universe.
I understand. Well, we think that our fans really like the halo jump because they're extremely fun. I love them personally. I just think it's like, a 10 seconds gameplay moment that adds variety to our normal gameplay. It's very intense, it's actiony, but also like, now we add the shooting, so like the gameplay is a little more diverse, and it's really about the fun like that our fans have when they play that. So it's not the only thing, it's just like a 10-second section that I think kind of breaks the rhythm and like increases the intensity, and is part of our big action epic moments that we have in the game. So I actually think it's really fun, and I know a lot of people love them. But if this is not what you like, we have a lot of other gameplay opportunities for you, right?
Well, I mean, you touched on a point there. It is only 10 seconds of gameplay, which is a really good lead into my next question, which is, it must be really hard for you guys to please everybody, because it seems like, after E3, everybody was complaining, oh, now it's turned into a third-person action game, which I know isn't true at all. And in fact, the way that you've implemented the commando role and crouching is actually works in the game. Is it frustrating for you guys to know that overall it's still Dead Space at its core, and it's still exactly what the team have been known to do really well for a really long time, but to kind of educate the other people out there that, just hold on to your hats?
Yeah. Well, it's important that our fans understand what the game is about. And our first move was to show that we were able to innovate, to bring new features, new things about Dead Space, because we really wanted to bring new gameplay, environment diversity, and I think we really are succeeding in that. And so it's okay that people don't understand, because we're confident we can deliver what our game is about, and I think that's what we're doing right now. That's what we've been doing the past couple of months, and I think this is really what the GamesCom demo is about. It's about showing that we do have the single player true Dead Space experience, and that our fans should absolutely not worry about Dead Space being a completely different game,
And I'll attest to that, because in the demo that I played yesterday, I'm in a room full of people playing the same thing, and I jumped out of my seat at least 3 or 4 times. So, I mean, you've nailed it again. There are a couple of really cool things, you've got telekinesis, but now you've got the twisting of the telekinesis. But I didn't really see much more than just hitting the button twice in that demo. Can you expand on how that's going to kind of evolve?
Of course. So this is a TK torque, and in the fiction, the TK torque appears because you're in deserted areas that are unpowered. So in Dead Space 1 and 2, you had these switches, but they're powered by electricity. When you get into the ice planet or in the Lost Flotilla, the deserted flotilla, there's no power. So in the fiction, you have to manually open kind of everything. In Dead Space 3, really, we're using Isaac's skill set a lot more. So it's kind of part also of that aspect, that focus on our end, and adding a little more traversal mechanics, such as the ladders, as you have seen in the demo, right? So that's how we're using it. It expands on our puzzle abilities to use this mechanic. So we're trying also to make a little more complex puzzle, a little more interesting. So it's kind of like in that aspect that we're using that new mechanic.
How long does it, talking about the ladders, because in Dead Space 2, one of the scary moments was when you'd get into a crawl space, and so you're really up close. You've got a really narrow field of vision, and then when you guys animated him coming out of the crawl spaces, you didn't know what was behind you ever. And it's a very clever way to build tension. Now the ladder sequence, you've got this amazing camera angle that is just so scary. How long did it take for you guys to find that angle and get it to that point where basically, if you're climbing a ladder, you just don't know what's going to come out?
Right. Well, I can tell you exactly how long it took, but it took us a lot of time to find a good animation and camera, and our animation team did a great job, I think, to make it feel good. I think you can really feel Isaac's weight, balancing from one side to the other. The camera angle feels good. I think the ladders are actually a pretty difficult mechanic to make it look good, and I think we succeeded at that. So I would say we put a decent amount of time in here, because anything that our team does, we either do it amazing, the best quality we can do, either we don't do it. Yeah.
And has the UI changed since E3? Because it looks a little bit different. It looks more classic Dead Space to me.
So the UI may be different depending on the environment you're in. So right now you're in the GamesCom demo. The ship that you see, it's the Eudora. It's actually a very modern ship of one of the crew members that you're going to be traveling with. So it's very modern, it has this very futuristic look to it. Then you have the Lost Flotilla that is very ancient, that this is where you had to open all the doors manually. The UI kind of reflects, the fact that it's ancient and deserted. And then Tovalentis is a very ancient planet as well. So the UI always tells a story about where you're at, what happened here, what was the technology at the time, and how you can use it. So yes, the UI that you saw at E3 on Tovalentis is different than the one you're going to see on the Eudora ship, which is a very new ship, which is different from the one you're going to see on the Flotilla.
Yeah, right. In terms of locations, I mean, you've mentioned 3 major ones. Can we expect more than that, or are you not allowed to talk about that?
I cannot tell you anything right now, but very good surprises to come.
Okay. And in terms of, I mean, I'm not even going to talk about the co-op stuff, because as everybody's pointed out, you don't have to play it. It's there. It's an option for the players. So, but in terms of the single player content, are we looking at something similar to Dead Space 1 and 2? I mean, they both kind of had a pretty similar cadence, a pretty similar amount of time to put in, and even in terms of challenge, like I played them on the hardest difficult setting I could. What have you guys done to kind of maintain that level of consistency?
So I think in Dead Space 3 is a little different, because we have a little more depth in gameplay and also in environments. So we have the beta path, which are additional and totally optional levels to explore, which is great if you want to scavenge for great resources. So this totally ties in back to the weapon crafting feature and the resource management, where you have to explore the world to find the best resources that are, get you the best parts and the most badass weapons that you can make. So this all ties in together into that, focus on our end and investment into making more options for our players to explore. So if you are into weapon crafting, you can spend literally 100 hours in this thing. If you want to explore all the beta path, if you want to replay with the co-op, it's way more about about choice into Dead Space 3. You can really spend a lot of time doing that. So I would say it's a deeper game that has more gameplay depth, and I think our players are going to find a lot of replayability value more than in Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 1 actually.
In terms of the scavenging, are there tiers of materials that you can find? Are because if you kind of look at other games where you can craft or find materials to craft with, there's kind of legendary stuff and common stuff, elite stuff, rare stuff. What have you guys kind of introduced in Dead Space for that?
So I can't tell too much about the way we're going to scavenge, because we're going to talk about that a little more later. But what I can tell you is, of course, there are very raw material, very standard material. Maybe you saw in the demo, the tungsten or the scrap metal. You're going to find that a little bit anywhere. And then you have rare resources that you're going to have to spend time to find. And these are the resources that are going to enable you to construct the most devastating weapons. So we are building different tiers of resources.
And are we going to see a return to gravity basketball at all?
I cannot tell you right now, but you can expect a lot of new.
What about Peng? Are we going to see Peng?
Peng is always part of Dead Space. It will always be there.
All right, listen, we'll leave it there. The game really looks amazing. I like the art team have just done a fantastic job. That exploring that flotilla was just incredible, and I'm so happy to see that the game hasn't lost its core mechanic, its roots, its foundation in scare, and it looks really good. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'm really happy to say that our team is really committed to delivering the best experience to our players. So I'm really happy that you enjoy it.
Thanks very much for that, Yara. Cheers.